like I always say, relationships are never perfect.
Right.
And if you are in a relationship, that means you're always trying your best to make it better. Because again, that's all you could do. You could only try to make your relationship better than it was yesterday. Yeah, right. So everybody plays a role in making this better. While you as a man typically have your own role to play, just based on what you're contributing to that relationship.
Right.
Your partner has her own role to play, and
Mhm.
I think both of you need to be at a place where you both accept that this relationship, though good, could be a lot better, or accept that this relationship is terrible, but and we need to make it better, right? Both parties need to be working on the relationship. If only one party is working on a relationship, yes, it could be really counterproductive
Mhm.
because the effort you put in is either not valued by the other parent, the other partner, or they don't match it, and then it creates even more issues, right? So yes, I think we are all working on our relationships because they
Yeah.
are not perfect. It cannot be
Okay.
perfect. Hmm.
And of course, I mentioned earlier, our view is from the men. So it's real that we might miss a lot of stuff. Um, we often hear women complain, and sometimes the complaints are flimsy, but a lot of times they are genuine concerns that we as men can improve on. So we are going to tease that out on this show and discuss and find ways that we can improve on. Um, let's start. What do you typically hear from women when they complain about men? Um, I have a few that I wrote down that I'd like to share, then we can add more if you think more is needed. So a lot of women complain to me, and I talk to a lot of, we have talked to a lot of women on the show. We've had a lot of women come on over the years. The lack of communication, that's a common one. The lack of connection. Their men do not connect with them in the ways that they want to be connected. A lot of women complain that they feel underappreciated by their men. They carry the burden of the household. That's an example. They carry the burden of household work. Many a times they have to go to work themselves and they have to come back and prepare food and take care of the kids and serve their husbands too. And the husband usually is um, not very participative and taking off some of this load of the woman's plate. So a lot of women complain about that the lack of um, help for men. Most men are traditional in the sense that they think a lot of these things, a lot of household tasks has to be the females to perform. So that's a few complaints that I get from women. Okay, the lack of connection. When women say that, what do you think? What comes to mind? I mean, I have what I think, but I'd like to hear what you
Uh, Lack of connections can come from a couple of things. First, there's the physical connection to your partner,
think.
right? And then there's also the emotional piece, and there are a couple of factors that contribute to things like this. First, let's take the physical connection. Just being able to give your partner a little hug here and there, a little,
Yeah.
you know, a little intimacy in that sense, right? Touch too is pretty important for some people. That is how they get physically connected. You cannot be in a home with your wife or your girlfriend for a full day, and then there's no touch. She's there doing her thing, you're here doing your thing. There has to be a little bit of that physical touch. Some people like it, right? And it helps kind of build bond in that sense. Then there's the emotional connection where you're checking in on your partner, asking how their day has been, listening to whatever conversations they bring up, because most of the time we 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 feel like we're having a conversation, but we are not necessarily listening because we
You're
are
not listening.
either we are not listening. We are not. We are there physically present, and they are
Right.
talking to us, but we are definitely not listening because we are either paying attention to something else or we are thinking about other things. We
How many times
need
have you heard your wife or girlfriend say, "Are you listening to me?" Because
because
you start saying something and your mind drifts out. One thing is the way women are wired to connect or communicate. Will go straight to the point. But women like to, ramble a little bit about something that's very important to them. And a lot of us, we barely have the concentration or the attention span of a housefly. So
Mhm.
by the time you start dragging it up, we drift away.
But isn't that something that people do to connect? Isn't that
Oh yeah,
conversation back and forth?
right.
Isn't that what people do to have a connect? Because again, I think men generally just want to say what they need to say and then do something else.
Yeah,
But again, that you need the time to have a proper conversation, to listen to whatever you
listen
might
to them. Yeah,
think is not important to you. You might think it's not relevant, but you
right.
need to listen because again, two of you are in this together, right? And if she feels that is an important conversation to have, I think men need to be patient enough to accommodate and to
Yeah,
listen and to respond. Again, most of the time we listen and they ask a question after speaking and we have nothing to say because we,
you have
you
nothing to
know, it
say. Yeah,
was coming through this ear and going the other way. We were not paying attention. We need to start paying attention. Where we are having a conversation, we are contributing to the conversation, no matter how insignificant you think that conversation might be. It's important for her, and it is important for you to demonstrate that I acknowledge that this conversation is important to you, and I'm going to give you the
yeah,
time that you need for us to have this conversation. Right? Most men don't do that, and that is something that we need to work on. They're in
we need
and
to work on.
out, quick, short statements, and we are done. I don't think that works anymore.
Yeah,
It's not what is expected
mhm,
of us these days. The women don't like it, so we need to
yeah,
kind of do better in that area, right?
yeah. So there are two types of men in this category. There's the man who doesn't really pay attention and we just want the conversation to be over with quickly, i.e. me. Just go straight to the point and tell me what the point and tell me what the problem is, and then we can end. Because a lot of us men hate to have confrontations with women. It's just been in our nature. We don't like to argue with women or fight with women. So we just want everything to just be done quickly, straight to the point. But unfortunately, that's not how women communicate. There's another group of men. Sometimes they don't pay attention. Other times they do, but they quickly jump into solving every single problem that your wife or partner brings to them. And sometimes these women just want to have a listening ear. They just like, I just want you to listen to me. I don't
Listen.
want you to try to solve anything. I don't want you to come up with any solution to anything. I just want to have that listening ear. Sometimes it's very difficult to decipher which is really which, particularly if you're new to the relationship and you guys are trying to learn each other. Is that something you've witnessed?
It's something that happens very often. And for me, most of the time now, I just go into asking, do you just want me to listen and be supportive, or
Right.
are you wanting me to find a solution to the
Solution.
problem that we are having, right? And sometimes they say, no, I just need you to listen. Then I listen. And then if I'm required to make my own little contributions, I make contributions without trying to solve the issue. So, for example, she goes to work, for example, and she comes back and she's telling me about a work situation.
Right.
And of course, I'm not working there, so I can't really solve
You
it.
can relate
So
it. Yeah.
I need to be able to bring myself to a position where I can only listen and then I can provide advice or provide my own recommendations to her because she has to go back and deal with that issue on her own, right? So I think we definitely need to get to a place where we can definitely sit back and just
Just
listen to what they have to say.
listen. Which is very difficult for
Yes,
men because you have been wired your whole life that you have to tackle a problem, you have to find a solution, you have to find a way. So it's like switching, turning on off the switch in the way that you are naturally and you are socially being groomed to be. But it's something that you have to learn the hard way. Like, not every time that your wife comes to you with a problem does she want a solution. She wants to just have a listening ear. She just wants someone to talk to. No longer the days where you used to have communities or where men go and sit down and where women sit down and share their frustrations with other adults. But now it's so hard that a lot of people are individualized, and unfortunately, the society has made it that you have to be everything for your partner at every
Mhm.
given time, at every given day.
Mhm.
So a lot of us jump into action like, oh, what is it that I want to solve for our wife? Oh, what are the things that I want to do? But sometimes we just want to listen, and I find that too amongst my peers. Like, man, this woman is always complaining, but when I tell her something, she becomes mad.
Mhm. And the thing too is sometimes they bring a problem, you provide a solution, they go ahead and they do something completely different, right?
Right.
And you're like, so why did we even have this conversation? Yes, you had the conversation because she wanted you to listen. That was all she needed you to do, not provide a solution.
Yeah.
Because while she's talking to you, she's thinking about how she wants to solve the problem.
Right.
And then you provide a recommendation, she goes ahead, she does something completely different, and you're sitting there thinking, why did we spend 1 hour having this conversation
Right.
just so that you can go ahead and do something completely different? But again, like I said, all you needed to do was to listen. That
Yeah.
was all you needed to do, and
How
not
can
jump into trying to fix the problem.
right? Well, not that we're experts on this, but how do you think
No,
men can be able to separate when their wife wants a solution to a problem that they're bringing to you, or when they just want you to listen to them rant about something, or just release the pressure about something that's bothering them? And I don't know the solution to that. Maybe you have an idea.
I think it's definitely hard to identify what they are expecting from you. So for me nowadays, I ask the question
Yeah.
simply:
And that comes
Are
with
we?
years of experience in marriage.
That comes with 10 years of experience in marriage, right? I simply just ask, hey, what do you need? What do you need from me? Are we trying to solve this problem, or do you just need me to listen and to support and to validate what you're saying?
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's either one or the other. Eventually you chip in the solution, but again, you need to give her the time to express whatever she needs to tell you, right? And then you go from there. But yeah, I generally just ask, what is it you need from me?
Right.
Which could sometimes it starts a whole different conversation.
I'll start a
but
conversation. Yeah.
but that is the question you should be asking. What do you need from me?
Yeah.
It's simple.
Well, oh, I'm complaining about work, but what I really need is for you to help me do the dishes.
Yeah, that it could just be that. That she's
Right.
telling
I mean, if
you how rough she's
yeah,
telling you how rough her day was just because she needs you to help with a few
something else.
things in something else, which is totally fine too. So it's just being able to ask, what do you need from me?
Anyway, we men can improve on communication. That's for sure. We communicate different. We are wired different. So um, we don't know the solutions to everyone's problems. We definitely don't know the solutions to our problems. So we're gonna try, and we encourage men to be able to sometimes just listen to what your significant other is trying to say. Do not jump into solving problem solving mode or providing solutions when you've not been asked. Try to separate your feelings from what you think about the situation. And meet your wife halfway. Sometimes they are genuinely stressed and they just need a listening ear. I just botched that because I really don't know what to tell men here. But anyways, another big one that women usually complain of, and you hear this from for women from all ages and in all stages of their relationship, whether they're just newly starting out or they are 50 years in marriage, the lack of connection. And for the life of me, over the years, I've never understood. I mean, it's a broad word. It can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different women at a lot of different times. The lack of connection. What does that mean? And over years, I've come to realize that that usually means emotional connection. Part of it is that communication that we just talked about. They
Mhm.
want you to be able to listen to them. But many a times it's brother. Like women mean what it can mean a lot of things. I don't want to try to pretend like we have it all covered here, but one is communication, another one is sex, another one is sharing your interests, engaging in what she is passionate about, and then trying to get her into your own world to share what you are passionate about, what your experiences in life are, what your goal is, where you think the family is going. It could mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. When you hear men lack connection, we just want connection from our guys. What do you think?
when you start dating a girl, you remember how much time you spend together?
I know.
Most of your days, you're around her or she's around you. You're either physically present together or you're connecting on the phone or you're making phone calls. That is what all you think about. That is all you do,
Yeah.
right? That is a very significant, it's a high level of connection there. Okay, as time goes, that
It,
begins
it
to
will.
shift.
Yeah.
You're not spending as much time. You're not having as much conversation. You're not doing things together as much as you used to do. Okay, now you two are married. You have kids like mine running all over the place here. You have kids now, and then you have work, and then you have other responsibilities. Trust me, you're spending even less time
Yeah.
together. You're having even less conversation. You're doing things even less. So you might even want to commit to spending more time, but it's just not possible. Take a situation where both the husband and the wife work. One person has a day shift, goes to work during the day. The other person works at night. For example, there
Hmm.
is little to no time for any kind of commitment because you come in, she's going out, she's coming in, you're going out, and then there are kids. There's this, there's that, there's this. You're committed to too many things. You can't make time for the other partner.
Yeah.
That I think is a problem, especially here where everybody works, right? Everybody works. It's not like back
Hmm.
home where sometimes your wife stays home because she's a stay-at-home mom or housewife or whatever they
Yeah.
call that, and then the man goes out and do all the work and comes home and the wife is always there. Here it's different, right?
Yeah.
Which means there's no time for that connection. Even if you talk on the phone, sometimes being physically present and talking to each other or doing
Hmm.
something together, you know, adds to the level of emotional connection or attachment that you two can have, as opposed to if you were, on the phone, no matter how much time you spend on the phone, right? So yeah, I definitely think that there are a couple of issues that prevent
Yeah.
us from being. Or maybe, oh, another thing is maybe you're just I don't want to say growing out of love, but
You're in a different stage.
you you for some reason you kind of you drift a little bit apart, and you don't value the time or the connections that you had.
Well, I don't
Again,
know. I
you
don't
know
know if it's that you do not value. I think relationship change over time, and it's unfair to compare the honeymoon phase of relationship where all you think about is your partner, all you think about is trying to please your partner, and you find no fault in his or her own behaviors. I mean, you see clothes on the floor, but that's cute. You see the dirty dishes in the sink, but that's cute during the honeymoon phase. And a lot of men and women are drunk in love. They're drunk in this dopamine rush that they get in a new relationship, and they tend not to find fault, any fault in their relationship, particularly at the beginning. I think I've read a lot of places where they say this typically lasts for about a year and a half to about 3 years into the relationship. Then the honeymoon phase dies down. So, um, honeymoon phase is really an unfair standard for any relationship. It is not sustainable, and a lot of people feel that when they go into a relationship, they are supposed to feel the same way they felt on the first day, maybe 2 weeks or maybe 3 months or maybe 3 years after the relationship, when probably you had no kids, you had all the time in the world, it was just you and your partner. But now we're in a different stage. We probably have kids. We've been together for a long time. So of course that initial excitement that you guys have for each other is no longer there.
mhm.
So to be able to put that as the gold standard for your relationship, unless I feel like this, then I'm not in the perfect relationship. I think it's setting us, a lot of us, up for failure. Um, a lot of men to do that. They do not acknowledge the changes in their partner, and there are tons of ways that we can talk about how women do this. But a lot of men are still stuck in this stage, like, oh, I met this fun girl. She was doing all the monkey branches in the bed, and she will be lovely to. She was always excited to go out at the beginning of the relationship. Now we are like 2, 3 years down the road, and she's just there. She's not motivated by anything. She has no interest of her own. She's not, or maybe she has kids now, and the kids are taking all over
All
her
the
time,
time,
and
right?
she's not paying attention to the man, right? Um,
But should
okay, I'm not.
isn't there? Shouldn't we have an expectation to see changes in relationships
We should,
as
but
as as
unfortunately,
as our lives evolve? So, for example, you start, it's just the two of you. It's fine. It's good. You do whatever you want. You have one, two, three kids. You can't expect to
to be
have
the
the same
same.
kind of relationship that you had before these kids came in, right? Because again, your emotions and your attachments, part of that is going to the kids. So you're not only focusing on the husband or the wife. Now you have three other individuals here who have very unique and individual needs and
Yeah.
who expect you to connect to them in that very unique and individual way, right? So it's not just one. Now you have four people that you need to split your
Mhm.
attention too, right? So I think there's a certain level we need to we need to expect changes. I'm
Change.
not saying that we should just let things go, but I'm saying that sometimes we should understand that the relationship we had when we were just newly married
Yeah.
cannot
Well,
be the same
it
when we
cannot
have
be
two,
said.
three, 4 kids.
Yeah, so a lot of men are still stuck in that honeymoon kind of stage. Oh, you're supposed to be this when we just met. And so they don't take account for all these changes that eventually happen to everybody. We all get older, we all become involved in our jobs, we all become involved in our children's lives, maybe in-laws. Sometimes you have to deal with sick family members and all that stuff. So life changes. So this is for us men to be able to see that life changes both for ourselves, for our partner. Gosh, I'm not the same. Like when we just met, I don't think you are the same too. But how do we adapt together with each other? How do we grow together with each other to find a way to be able to make compromises that take into account?
Mhm.
Yes, we want to work on our relationships for it to be better, but then we have to acknowledge that changes happen to everyone. Newsflash, time passes by for everyone, and everyone
Mhm.
gets old. So we cannot be stuck up in our ways the way we were when we were single and childless and free and had all the time in the world.
Mhm.
Um, 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 so that's one thing. I mean, there's other aspect, but we are talking particularly about men. For men to be
Mhm.
able to acknowledge these changes in their partners and to be able to work with them, or to gradually change it. Sometimes you don't grow with your partner. It doesn't necessarily
Mhm.
mean that you guys have to grow apart. You can just acknowledge that we are at a certain stage in our lives, which is very different from how we started on.
So
Um,
I have a comment. I have a comment. It's not on the live, but it's a comment on WhatsApp because again, I shared the link on
yeah,
WhatsApp. I'll just read maybe part of it and see if we can break it down a little bit. So it says lack of communication is the number one reason for failed marriages and relationships,
yeah,
and that communication must be reflective and effective. Makes
yeah,
sense. Just like being successful in other things which you put in the work, you must also put in the work in your relationship, which is
yeah.
yeah, both parties, which is something
Both
we've just
parties.
been saying. They have to work. Both parties have to work to make it better, and um, unresolved marital conflict is also a big problem. So again, it's like both parties need to work to make things better. And then she adds that unresolved marital conflict is also a big problem, which after a period of time may be detrimental to the marriage or the relationship. So again, that is what somebody is saying with respect to
Yeah,
the conversation. I think
I think we've talked a lot on that, right? I think
mhm,
it was sure.
yeah.
But one thing that we missed was her last point, the unresolved marital conflicts.
Mhm,
And a lot of women will do complain like, I keep bringing this thing to you. You make as if you don't pay attention, you ignore them, or you don't show any enthusiasm, you know, and sharing your wife's interest on, or in sharing the problems that she's bringing to you. She wants you to change, but you are only stuck up in your ways. You do not want to change. You don't want to take any accountability. I see a lot of men doing that. They do not want to change for their wives. So those are things that men can definitely improve on. Um, I don't know if you have anything to add. So we're still on the connection. So why do you feel like men have a difficult time, first of all, understanding what connection means? I mean, if you find a man who understand what that means, please bring him. I would like to interview him. And two, to be able to connect in a way that women want. So the first one, we have, I think fundamentally we have a different understanding of what connection means. We have to try to, and let me expand a little bit. For a lot of men, connection is simply a sexual act. Unless they are having sex, they are not connecting to their partner. But I think women oftentimes want something more than just the in and out of sex. Uh, the one, hugging them, like I mentioned earlier, randomly, appreciating them just randomly, or telling them that they are wonderful randomly.
Hmm.
We have a lot of challenge in that, i.e., I'm one. It's just not how I was raised.
I think it's a lot
Coming
of
up,
work.
coming up from our African background, I never saw my parents kiss each other or hug each other.
Hmm.
Or you never saw your parents complimenting each other. They all had these different roles, but there was no like physical and emotional outpouring to the other person that seems to be what is demanded from every man. But you cannot be what you did not grow up to see.
Hmm.
Um, so a lot of us, I mean, this is particularly common in a lot of us African, Cameroonian in particular, but African, and a lot of men too in the West. We don't know how to connect emotionally because we had no examples of that growing up.
But again, just to make this a little bit more complicated, sometimes we say things not because we mean, but just because it's expected of us.
Yeah, you
Is
also
that
reflect.
what they are looking for? That we just go ahead and say all these nice things about them. Hey, I love you. Oh, I miss you. When you really don't,
When you
or
don't,
what are the expectations? Because again, sometimes they're like you have to say this, you have to call me this, you have to call people this, and most of the time people they say it like a man says, oh, I love you really, really, and then this next second he is texting some other girl and saying the same thing. Like, so, it I think what we need to do is we need to look at your partner's love language. There's this thing everybody says love language this.
Mhm,
I think
mhm.
you need to figure out exactly how your partner wants to be loved.
Yeah.
Right? Some people, like we talked about a lot, people want the physical touch. People want um to people determine that you love them by seeing how you serve, how you help, what you do around when you're with them. Others want to spend time. It doesn't really matter what you two are doing, just being together, watching a movie,
Which is
listening
hard
to
for
music.
a lot of men. Like just sitting there, a lot of us have ADHD. Just sitting there and watching a movie. That is not something that we are wired to do. We always
Hmm.
want to be doing something,
Hmm.
or just sitting there and sharing life experiences. That's not something that we are naturally wired to do.
Hmm.
But a lot of women appreciate this. And in a marriage, you have to do things that you are not naturally
Yeah, you're
wired to
not.
do.
Exactly.
Do
So
things
if
that
you're
you
looking to
should be
improve,
able to
if
do.
you're looking to improve on a relationship that
Right.
you're committed in, you have to do things that
Let's
you
do
are not that
uncomfortable
are not in
things.
your nature,
Yeah.
that are not in your nature to do, right? But some people are fortunate enough that they and their wives or their partners have similar interests. So,
Right.
for example, the desire to watch a movie.
Right.
Both I know couples who can sit down together and watch a movie.
Money
That
movies.
is something that I do. For me, I was fortunate to have that connection with my
Appreciate.
wife, where we maybe go down, take sit down an evening, go to Netflix, pick a series that is
Yeah.
like 6 or 7
Hmm.
episodes. And then it's just that is what we do. Every time we're together and we feel like we want to connect, watch a movie, we sit together and we continue watching. I can't go watch that series without her. She can't do it. So that is something that we bond with.
Mhm.
People are fortunate to have situations where they can bond with their wives in that way. But if, for example, it wasn't something that I would typically do and it was something that she loved to do, well, again, like I said, I want to make this better. I would have to compromise. I would have to sit down there
Mhm.
and watch that movie with her, right?
Yeah.
Just so that we have the kind of connection that she's looking for. So
Mhm.
again, like I said, love language very important. You need to figure out how your partner or your wife or whoever is wants to be loved, and then you do your very best, to meet up to those some of those expectations, right?
Mhm. So yeah, a lot of men they're avoidant type in the relationships. If you read about attachment and attachment theory, a lot of us grow up to be a reflection of our childhood. We never really saw our parents connect that way, so we don't do that. So we've said if you want to improve on your relationship, part of it is doing the things that you're uncomfortable with, and yeah, helping to speak your partner's love language. Another thing, the women that we've talked to over time, they complain about the lack of appreciation from their men. Um, Men typically don't, and this is not. Sometimes it involves the big things like taking you out, or I want to thank you, or buying you gifts on Valentine's Day and Christmas. But other times it's just simple thank you for supper today, or thank you for making me coffee, or thank you for taking care of the kids today. A lot of those things that we take for granted that really simple, they are very important. Um,
I think the thing is, you typically don't expect any appreciation for something that you think it's a duty, or it's my responsibility to do this. So I'm not requiring any appreciation from the other person, because again, it's not like I went above and beyond to do something for you. I'm just simply meeting my responsibilities as the man in the house. She is definitely meeting her responsibilities as a woman in the house by cooking and doing this and doing this. However, it goes a long way if you can show appreciation even for the things that she is supposed to be doing, that she does
Right.
every day. Hey, thank you for lunch. Thank you for supper.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for getting the kids ready. Oh yeah, I appreciate what you've done. It doesn't have to be a lot. That's what I've
Yeah,
noticed. It
but
doesn't
for
have.
some,
You don't
in the
have to.
life of us men, it's so hard. You have to yank that out from us. So just like say thank you. And it comes when you are settled in the relationship and everybody already sort of understands their duties and their roles.
Mhm.
And then you're just on autopilot. And then it becomes, you almost put that to the side of just saying the thank you and the appreciation. And yeah, you're wonderful. It is hard to extract that from men. Sometimes they really do feel bad, but they do not communicate that, i.e., the lack of communication from men that women always complain
But
of.
do you know how it feels when someone says, I appreciate what you just did, when your partner
It's
says that?
motivate, yeah, it's
It's
very motivating.
motivating.
It
Yes,
makes them
it
feel
does.
seen. It makes them feel heard. It
Hmm.
makes them want to repeat that. And usually for men, that takes a lot less, but for women, they seem to want to do this more. And then you are asking it for men who generally communicate less, who usually expect less, and then women want them to be, oh, you're wonderful all the time. And this is just for the normal thing. Another thing is when women go out of their way to do something for themselves, usually, maybe for you. Take, for example, a woman goes out to do her nails and she's coming back all excited. And then she shows you the nails or she shows you her hair that she's done. And, that's nice. You can see disappointment in
In her face.
women when you do that because they have spent these hours at the salon and they expect some enthusiasm that we don't really care about that. It's not something that we typically care about. We're not gonna be, oh, is it like they want us to take out the camera and have paparazzi when they show you the nails or their hair done. But I think we can improve,
We
not
can
necessarily 100% excited, but we can share some
do
level of
better.
enthusiasm
We,
and support.
but the thing, the here is the thing. You see your wife looking beautiful, you don't say anything,
Right.
all right? You step out of your house and you see some other girlfriend. looking beautiful,
You see
and
something.
you're the first. No, you're the first to say, ah, you look nice.
Right.
But you just left your home and you couldn't even say that to
Right.
you.
And
It's not because
that's
we
not
don't
business
it's not
recognition.
because we don't recognize the importance of
You
doing
do.
it. It's not
Exactly.
because we don't notice that our partners have changed or have done their nails, or we which
We
we've
just
just we
not that excited as women want us to be excited and enthusiastic about it. I think we just not. It is something that women, I think, women deeply care for, but it is not something that is particularly of interest. Well, your nail looks nice and nicely done, yeah, but to be able to be passionate about it and show that enthusiasm, and you are perfect and blah blah blah. It's
but
not something that men can
my
connect to.
query my query is not our inability to do that. My query is that we do that to other people, not
We do.
necessarily the person we should be doing that to.
Well,
I,
because other people, you're not thinking about the dirty linens and the throw, the
yeah.
arguments that you get in marriage, the insult that is insulted you,
should
the
that
things that you go
should
through.
that
So
stop
it's
you?
not necessarily it's very perfect. No, I'm not saying that. I think you need to be able to appreciate your significant others and tell them thank yous and please. But
Mhm.
um, a lot of time, what is in the way of us maintaining this thing is all the problems we have in our brains, the financial problems we have, the arguments we've had about our spouse, the the challenges that we're facing, the disagreements that we're having all the time. So instead of just compartmentalizing that and putting it on one side and just say, okay, you look good today. We have a problem, but word of appreciation. Thank you.
But shouldn't we be looking more to the positives? I mean, if we
It's
if
human
we can't leave the
nature, though.
difficulties aside
Right.
and look at what is going well in this relationship, then there might be no relationship in the
Yeah.
first place, right?
Yeah. It's just human nature to nitpick the negative things. Your wife may have done 1,000 good things throughout the day, and then the one little thing that she doesn't do, you just clamp on that, and then you withhold that words of appreciations, that ways of connection that she craves for. And
And
in my experience, people who are successful in their marriage, they are people who can say, yeah, we have all these problems, but now I choose to say positive things about you.
mhm,
And you can tell people who have grown in their relationship, they can argue, and in the next 5 minutes, they are doing things as a couple. They are working together as a team. That is one way for me that I judge people who have matured well in their
mhm,
relationship. Like, they can have a fight, and then in the next minute, oh, they are focused on a task, like a husband or a boyfriend and girlfriend. They can work things together. And I think that takes years of practice and learning each other and finding ways to communicate a problem in a way that is non-threatening, and then able to focus on the problem as we and not on the other person.
mhm.
That's just my experience with a lot of people that we know that have been married for a long time, and they seem to be have a good dynamic between them. It's not that they do not have problems, but they can be able to transition from
Problem
problems to
to what needs to
what
happen, to the good
what needs to
times,
happen and
to
working together
back to
as
the
well.
problem,
And then back to
and
the
then out of it
problem.
again. Of course, it's a circle. It's a circle. There are always problems. There are always issues to deal with.
Yeah.
But if you focus all solely on the issues that have to be addressed, the disagreements that you have, then you have no time for anything else.
Yeah.
If you're stuck in the disagreements, you're stuck in the problems, then you have no time to grow. You're not thinking about the positive things. You're not thinking about how well she's done here, or how
Yeah.
well you've done here, or how well things have been. You get stuck. So I think it's definitely a circle where you have issues. You might not even address it, but something else comes up. You leave that aside. You deal with the next thing.
Yeah.
It might be some happy moment. You deal with that. You deal with the next, and then you come back to whatever issues you had, maybe next week, or maybe in a couple of days, or even maybe on the same day, and then you try to resolve that, right? And then you move. It's you're constantly switching from happiness to sadness to disagreements to this and back to it, right? So
Yeah, that's a topic that we're gonna talk about happiness, what it means. I think we can do that next week or in the next 2 weeks. What happiness means. Yeah, but yeah, I think you can see couples who are better in a relationship in the way that they solve problems and the way that they can flip that switch and turn into cooperation mode and then back into solving problems.